Okay, are we live? Is it coming? Where? What's going on? Welcome everyone to the live stream prize draw. The prize draw for the live stream. I'm going to start this stream in a minute. I'm just getting things organized. I'm sending out an email at the moment. I still don't know how to get this URL for the stream before we start the stream. And I don't have any video to put at the beginning. So this is going to be the draw for the 10,000 subscriber prize draw. And I've got the people here in this little bucket. Woo! in my singing bowl. So I'll give this a gong because it's really nice. Even though it's got the prize people inside, still can gong. And it's kind of blessing them all inside there, I guess. Maybe I'll just give you some sounds of the singing bowl while I get this organised. And talk amongst yourselves. Won't be long. Any minute now. I'll put this microphone right at the singing bowl. Okay. It's got a bit of other sounds in there, I think. Okay, now I need to get that. Okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to get the URL of this one. Copy that. And then I'm putting that into the email. Hope you're all doing well on a Sunday afternoon here in not so sunny Perth, as it should be sunny. It's not sunny. It's been miserably. That's the sound of people's prizes. It's not sunny here at all. Let me see if I can get this email to send. No, we just want to send it right now. There we go. Off it goes. Shoop. Off the email goes. Okay, we're still live. So this is going to be the prize draw. I might do some question and answers. I probably won't because I'm just kind of winding down today. But I did say I would do this prize draw for the people that have entered. So what has happened is some people have entered the prize draw for the 10,000 subscribers. So just making sure that that person wasn't falling out. So if you've entered the prize draw, what's happened is you've done it by email, and every one of these little strips is a person who's entered. And that's what's going to happen. I'm going to pull people out of the draw. So what's the draw? What was the prizes? What are the prizes you could win? So the number one prize is a 12-week course. So you get an access to the new course that I'm going to do, the 12-week dietetics course. So Chinese diet therapy for self-care with me. And that's worth $1,250 Australian. There still is a discount on that course to sign up. So if you don't win that prize and you are hoping to win it and you really want to do that course, that starts next Sunday live, and you'll also get on demand. So all the people who win something in this prize draw, you get exactly what I would give you if you paid for it. So you'll get the 12 months access to the on demand. The second one is the course that I just finished about 3 weeks ago from now, called Foundational Concepts of Chinese Medicine. And that's learn on demand because we've just finished the live of that. And that's valued at $1,250 Australian. And that's sort of really brand new. I haven't even opened the people up. I haven't even opened that up on the website for people to purchase that yet, because I've only just finished packaging that all up and making it all lovely and beautiful. And it's a really good quality audio and video for all of these things. So we were about to do the prize draw, and then so there's two prizes worth $1,250. And then there's going to be 5 drawn of the self-care with the 5 elements, which is a shorter course that's been quite popular, actually. Lots of people have purchased that course from me, and that's valued at $49. And that's like a week well, not really a week. You could do it. You could do the whole course in a day if you really wanted to, but each lesson's about 45 minutes to an hour or something like that, and it goes through each element, talks about how you can use those elements, aspects of them, like the mental, the physical, the social, the spiritual things of those elements for self-care. As always, I give plenty of practical stuff you can use. You can do acupressure and all sorts in there. So I've only just sent this email off now. I realise that everyone, this is not a good time for me to do a stream for the most people on the channel because they're all on the other side of the world, but that's fine. You just have to wake up. Wake up. So everyone for the prize draw is in this thing, and I just want to say a big thank you to the people who have supported the channel to get me to 10,000 subscribers. I really appreciate that. Really happy. Really, that's great. Thank you, everyone. So let's do the prize draw now. So the first one we're going to do, them in. We'll do. Don't know how to do these. We'll do the first five. The first five are going to be the self-care with the 5 elements. We'll do them in that order. We'll go from the we'll leave the best till the last. Okay, the most exciting. Well, what I think is most exciting to the last. Okay, so what's going to happen is I'm going to draw these people out of the hat, so to speak, out of the singing bowl, and I'll do it so you can see it being done. It's just that bowl is bloody heavy. I can't hold it up here. I've failed with. Maybe I can probably bring my camera down here a little bit, but then you're going to see. There we go. You won't be able to see my face. If I put my face down here, you'll be able to see me and the bowl. Hovering over it. Hovering over the prizes. Where are they? Right here. So what's going to happen is I'm going to draw these people out, and We'll keep them aside. I'll just write on there which prize that they're getting, and then I'll contact you within a few days with an email individually, and that's where you'll get the access to the course. For the one that's for the live one, it'll just be you'll be starting next week when it starts. Exciting. All right. So let's do this. I'm going to put this back up here because I can't spend my life bobbing down like that. All right. So this is the first one is for the one of 5 of self-care with the 5 elements. Ooh, rustly. Okay. So I'm not going to read people's full names out either because that's not great, but I'm going to read the first name and I'll read where they're from. So this is man, I've got these are written tiny. That's my fault. Patrice from the USA. Okay, so that's self-care with the 5 elements. I'm just writing that down so I know what to do, who to contact. Who's getting what? Someone's getting a prize. Who will it be? We don't know. Okay, I'll do it in the thing. Someone's getting a prize. Should have been a presenter. Oh, we got 2 there. Okay, we'll get 1 now. All right. Who's this lucky person going to be? This is Megan from Australia. Okay, cool. That's going to go off to the side there. Another person's getting a prize. Someone will get the one with the big piece of paper on it. They're just randomly done here. This is Jasmine from the United Kingdom. Oh, I didn't write what it was for. Whoops. Self-care. Actually, when I looked at some of these people that have entered the prize draw, a lot of people have already done courses with me, which is awesome. And yeah, it's good to see people. Yeah, if you've done one, you want to do more, so that's great. All right, let's do another one. Ooh, who could it be? Don't look here. There we go. All right, what have we got here? Another lucky winner. How many self-cares have we done? 1, 2, 3. This is number 4. So this is Emma, and from Australia. Won't say the surname because keep that private. I know. Well, we've got your email here, so self-care. So that's the third. That's another self-care. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 people from self-care with the 5 elements. So we're giving away. Whoa. fell down. Maybe that should be the prize winner. I have to get off the floor. I'm on my standing desk here, but I'm like standing right up. Got it. That's lucky. They're lucky. We used to have this thing in Australia. If you're around my age, we used to have Say Out Saturday, and the guy would go, "This is Lucky Phil." I think that was Say Out Saturday. Okay, that was Shia, Xia, Shia, or Shia probably, in the United States. That's self-care. Cool, awesome. All right, let's do another one. Getting to the bottom of the barrel. Okay, now this is for, I think we've done, let's see, have we done 5 self-cares? 1, 2, 3, 5. We've done 5 self-cares. Okay, so this is for the Learn on Demand, valued at $1,250, the foundational concept of Chinese medicine. So this is, another Australian. There's actually a lot of people from US and UK in this as well, but seem to be picking a lot of Australians here. Jacqueline from Australia. So if your name's Jacqueline, you entered the prize draw, start getting excited because you're getting a course. That is the foundational concepts. Cool. All right, so that's a different prize. I'm going to put that in a different pile there so I don't forget. I can always go back to this YouTube video. I feel like that's what I'll have to do tomorrow when I'm sending out the emails to people. Okay, now this is the grand Pooh Bar prize, the grand total. Well, not grand Pooh Bar. That other prize was also a very lucrative prize. Here we go. Gonna gong the thing again. This is for the new course starting this Sunday, which is Chinese dietetics. So we've also valued at $1,250. Just giving it a bit of a mix in there. All right. So here we go. Without looking, I don't want to pinch somebody out of the, push them out of the barrel, out of the race. Ooh, what code could it be? This is someone from Canada, Brant from Canada. Well, you're going to be coming into the course. So you'll be able to do this. You'll be able to get to meet me live if you want to. So it'll be roughly, it's 8 p.m. my time, which is about something like between 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning. But you'll also get the access, the on-demand access as well weekly. So that is for the Chinese dietetics class. Put that there. So what will happen, just for transparency and everything, that's why I want to do this. I've been so busy this week with other things, as I usually am, patients and all kinds of stuff. So I put off doing this draw, and I did tell people that I would also gave them a bit of extra time to jump in. Like I gave a few extra days for people to enter. So that's good. So what's going to happen with the Chinese dietetics? So if you didn't win a prize, I'm sorry. But next time we get 100,000 subscribers, there'll definitely be some kind of prize thing there. So encourage people to subscribe, and then we'll grow the channel bigger and we'll have another prize draw. That's one way of doing it. Or you could just purchase the course for yourself, or you jump into the course that way. So I'll send a follow-up email with to the people that did win. They'll obviously get their course access. That'll be within 2 days or so of this video, making this video. I'm not going to do it right now. Sunday afternoon for me. And then so hopefully everyone's doing well. Got a few more people on the stream. Can I recommend any dietary books? Yeah, so I can. I don't have them right here. They're in my office in the other room. I do have a video on this channel where I talk about books recommendations. But the main one, so the first one I'd recommend if you don't have this already, is called Healing with Whole Foods. Sorry, that's also part of it. But the first one before that, even, it's called The Tao of Healthy Eating by Bob Floors, and he spells it Tao. Okay, on the book. I'm just writing it in the chat. Right, I must have 20 or 30 diet therapy books, a lot. And that book doesn't really give you any recipes. In fact, I think there's no recipes in it. It's not a recipe book. It's just an ideas of what are different things, particularly concepts like what's coffee mean in Chinese medicine? What does this mean? What does that mean? It gives you the basic understanding of what your gut health should be like. You can kind of piece together some of the stuff I'm going to teach in this course by some of the videos that I've got on YouTube, because part of the first few weeks of the course is talking about just basic gut health, which I've got a video that on this channel called Why Eat Mostly Cooked Foods, and then there's a couple saying, spleen chi for 2025, spleen chi for 2022, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter about the year. Okay, that's just to build the YouTube. The spleen chi for 2022, the tips are still the same for 2023, and so on and so forth. So you can kind of watch those videos about gut health. But that Bob Floors book is kind of the first one. The second one I'd recommend is a book called Healing with Whole Foods by Paul Pitchford. And that is a massive book. It's huge, and it's full of recipes. Now, the caveats for that book, the Pitchford book, is that he's not really a Chinese medicine practitioner. Now, his stuff aligns somewhat with Chinese medicine, but not entirely. Now, where does it differ? I think he's a vegan or a vegetarian. Definitely doesn't advocate eating meat. I don't even know if there's meat in the book. And he's more slants towards the macrobiotics perspective of dietetics. But other than that, it's a very useful book because there's tons of recipes in there. And if you are a vegetarian, obviously you can use all the recipes in there. And he does have some things about cooking with foods. Now, then there's several other texts where I wouldn't recommend you need to go out and buy that whole text, or, I mean, you can if you want to be a practitioner, but there's certain things I would use out of some texts and not in other texts. So I have another one it's by this author called Liu, Liu. I'm just going to have to look it up. I think it's just called Chinese Dietetics, and it's Livingstone Publishing. It's a yellow and blue book. And there's also another text by Kastner called Chinese Nutrition Therapy. And those two books, either of those books, would be what are used in schools as the main sort of textbook. Now, the Liu book, I'll have to just run into my office real quickly and grab them to show you them, which I can do, but I probably will in a sec, because I'll just tell you a bit more about them. But that, yeah, the last one's called Kastner. It's called Chinese Nutrition Therapy by Kastner. I'm just going to go and grab this Liu book because I'll show you what I mean. Just talk amongst yourselves. Okay, these are not all the texts that I have, but they're all that I could kind of carry in one go. Now, I don't actually have that Kastner book in a hardcover. I just have it as a PDF book, a digital book. This one here is what I used when I did Chinese medicine school. Liujig Lin, J.I. and Gordon Peck as the editor. So what's good about this, I'm pretty sure the Kastner is similar, is the foundational ideas are pretty solid in here in terms of, I mean, there's still stuff that when I look at this, like let's say from a classical Chinese medicine point of view, it still doesn't necessarily line up with what I practice now, but it's definitely what TCM practices and preaches, right? So the flavors of foods, the functions of foods, the seasonal energetics, all that sort of stuff. Now, then Chinese dietetics kind of then goes down the track of like, well, if you've got blood deficiency, what sort of foods should you eat? What can treat blood deficiency? What can treat qi stagnation, and so on and so forth? And the problem with this book is you come across a lot of recipes which are like turtle soup or not bear's gallbladder. I don't use that in Chinese dietetics, but river snail, like a recipe with snail. Now, and then there's like pig's lung. Now, these aren't necessarily foods that you can't get. Bring it back to the screen again, okay. These aren't foods that you can't get, but they are just not that appetizing to a Western appetite. Some of these foods. So the utility of every recipe is limited because of that in this book. Whereas this doesn't have any weird ingredients in it, but it's not all just Chinese medicine. This is the massive book I was talking about, the Healing with Whole Foods, and it's got a section for each element. So if you're into the 5 elements and you like that kind of idea, it's got a section on that. And then at least, where is it here? From here to the end, so a third of the book, and that's the rest of the book, that's the 2/3. This is all the recipes, and it goes through each thing like grains, vegetables, fish, and it gives examples of recipes. It teaches you how to cook them. So I've cooked up a lot of recipes from this book, for instance, Prince Wenhui's Cook. And this is a great book in terms of there's some good recipes in here, but would you go and buy? This isn't just the one book you want to buy. This is, unfortunately, out of all the books, I'd say just one book to buy would be this one here. Okay, that's the best one to get started with, The Tao of Healthy Eating by Bob Flores. And there's many covers of it. It's been printed many times with different front covers and stuff. Bob Flores was a very prolific. He's still alive. He's not dead. Was a very prolific writer of books around, when was this published? Sort of the 90s. And yeah, 1998 this was published, first edition. So I would say in the 90s. For practitioners, for sure, he's written lots of books for practitioners, but lots of books for lay people. And I'm going to mention a little series now. And if you've got something that's bothering you, then these are a good little series to get hold of. And they're hard to get hold of. You can sometimes find them on Amazon or whatever. But he's got this little series called Chinese Medicine Cures. That's what it says at the top here. And then it's got headaches. And then it'll say Bob Flores, edited by so-and-so. And there's one on all kinds of stuff. There's one for PMS. There's one for arthritis. There's one for hay fever. There's one for all kinds of stuff. I think there's about 6 or 7 of them. Depression, I've got one. And they do have different covers, right? Now, these are very repetitive if you get them all, for instance, which you wouldn't unless you're a practitioner. The first little section of each book just talks about what is Chinese medicine, what is yin and yang, what is qi and blood, and all this kind of stuff. And it's not a lot of it on that, but probably, a third of the book. And then it talks about the common patterns of disharmony that people with arthritis, for instance, might face. Blood stasis, like I'll just give you an example from this book. It talks about pattern discrimination. And then he gives a little synopsis about wind, cold and dampness, Bijang, which basically means painful obstruction disorder. And then he's got cold and heat and these things differentiated out. And that's going to be totally different. Those patterns are going to be particular to something like arthritis. Get that in the thing. Versus the one on PMS, premenstrual symptoms syndrome. And then he has a section in each of these books, right? The PMS. Now, I'm not endorsed by these people that write these books. I've just read them. On what he calls the 3 free therapies. I'll say that again, it's a bit tongue twister. 3 free therapies. So he's got acupressure, like he actually has little pictures and acupressure points you can press. He has herbal teas. For some of them, he has medicinal wines. And just a general thing about foods to kind of avoid. In this one particularly for the headaches, like it's got this little scalp massage thing going on, like showing you how to do this different massaging. It's got a Chinese herbal pillow, right? So these are just, I want to say, random recipes that a practitioner could make for you, and they do sometimes do these things, but they are, interesting external use therapies. So there might be things that, poultices you could put on things. So if you've got a particular condition and that's what you're looking to help yourself with, then getting a hold of these books probably wouldn't go astray, because it'll be very specific to what you're wanting to help yourself with. And they're in that time frame of this stuff never goes out of date, just by the way, but the 1997, 1999, this was published by his publishing company is called Blue Poppy Press. So the author's name's Bob Flores. Whenever you go to an op shop, a second-hand shop, I'd always just go to the book section at the back and just have a look there, because I've found some really great Chinese medicine books just by going into the books section at an op shop and finding them. Because people think I'm going to study it, and then they don't. Like like we all do. We think we're going to try something, and then we don't. We don't continue on. Or you sometimes find some because of a deceased estate or something like that, right? Some practitioners I know, they get rid of all their books because they've read them and they don't need them carrying them around anymore, and they're just not using them. And you think you're going to use some things at the start, and then you don't need them anymore, and things like that. So so that's what I'm going to be doing in the course is summarizing this stuff, like like synthesizing these things into. Oh, that's my singing bowl going in. Synthesizing this stuff into stuff we can actually make use of to make things make it make sense for you. So if you didn't win in the prize draw and you want to do that dietetics course, if it's money that's stopping you from from being able to do it, and you need a payment plan or something like that, please just send me an email and we can kind of organize something like that. If you want to split it into a couple of payments or something like that. Okay, we've got another question. All right. If the questions are here, I'll stay. Otherwise, I'm going to go. All right. Jack Oz says, thank you so much. Very much appreciated. Another question went to 2 different TCM doctors. One used many and another used only 10 needles. Yeah, so there's many styles. I think I did a video on this and it didn't do very well on the channel, like about all the different styles of acupuncture. Sometimes it's hit and miss with what you call the title or the thumbnail. But yeah, this is kind of confusing. You think, why? I hope that's safe, me putting these all up. This is on top of my speaker. They'll be fine now, but if I turn the stereo system on later and blast some music out, they'll vibrate their way off there probably. You see this a lot. Like, we used to have this guy in Perth that was known as the 100 needles guy, and he also had the one golden needle. So it was like known as, like, I don't know why, anyway, I do know why. So part of it sometimes can be a bit of a gimmick, okay? But jokes aside, there are very different systems of Chinese medicine, and something that's become really popular in the past, I would say 10 to 15 years, and really, I would say, like, exponentially, like, more and more popular in the last, as time goes on, is a thing called distal needling. So what that means is, and as part of distal needling, they usually use less needles. So prefer to use less. The idea of less being more, right? This completely depends on why are you seeing the practitioner, what are they treating, and what system of Chinese medicine are they actually using. Now, some practitioners don't know what system they're using, and they are using Chinese medicine, but they're using what's TCM, traditional, like just the conglomeration of all the thing or the stock. They're doing it a Zhang Fu method. And there's nothing wrong with these styles. They're just different ways of doing it. But the distal needling method is, now there's many methods of this. It's like there's unlimited amounts of these things. But the general basic premise of it is that you're trying to find a really painful point for that patient and needle that, which is usually far away from that problem area that they have. And it's usually... so you said one used many needles and one only used 10. Sorry, I thought you meant the 10 was the many. Okay, like, so you're saying even one only used 10. So in some of my treatments, I will only use like 3 needles. That's not that common, but I could do it with only 3 needles. So if you're coming in for something really acute, that means it just happened. Like, you hurt your back or you hurt your neck, and it just literally happened yesterday, then that's considered acute, right? Now, something that's been going on for a few days is starting to turn into something potentially chronic even, like, so a few days to a week. Now, something that's been going on for months and months is definitely a chronic, more of a chronic scenario. And you can have an acute flare-up of a chronic thing. So you might have, for instance, we'll say back pain. Someone will say, oh, my back's like always gets sore. And then one day it flares so bad that they can hardly walk. That'd be an acute flare-up of a chronic thing that they sort of always know they've got an old back pain. Anyway, so when something's recently happened, the more acute it is, the more better chance it is that it could be treated with these distal needling techniques quite effectively without having to needle the local spot. Which is like, let's say it's their back, we would be looking on their hand. Like, if it's the middle of the back, it's the bladder channel. So it's going to be the lung channel, which is kind of here. And you'd be pressing. So if the practitioner's doing this to you, they're getting you to lie down or sit down or something, and they're saying, okay, Marie, I'm going to press down your hand. And when you tell me, oh, that's a bit sore, and then they needle that point, they're doing this kind of distal needling method. And often associated with that is... like you feeling pain, you having to say, as in, you, not pain from the needles, but you having to tell the practitioner which ones are the sorest points. And one of the most common names for that method is called the Tan balance method, Tan, T-A-N, Dr. Tan. Now, there's practitioners that use a lot of needles, like I said, the 100 needle guy, where he just had this technique, and I don't know where he'd learned it from, and it's not that it's wrong. It's just different. Something's making a bit of a sound there, sorry. My computer's decided to hum like on its own. So I hope that's not making a little sound in the microphone. So I'm not having a go at those practitioners, but they're also, I find, as a practitioner that's training, when I'm training other practitioners, and especially looking back on my practice when I first graduated, sometimes using more points can come from a place of, now I'm not saying that's what your practitioner was doing, and I'm not trying to say it's the wrong thing to do. Please don't hear me out on this. But for me and practitioners I've trained, it's almost like, well, if that doesn't work, I've got this, this, and this in there. Okay, so there becomes this tendency to use lots and lots of points. I also used to see in the student clinic students of acupuncture using lots of points because they wanted to practice. It was their place of practicing. They wanted to practice needling, so they wanted to needle many points. Yep. So that can sometimes be the case, and then they just get into a habit of doing all of these points, and then sometimes it's also partly patient's expectation. So patients can expect that, like, they need that certain amount to be better. That's like you would think, oh, I'm getting more value for money or something like that, or like you're covering all of the bases. Like, you know, sometimes you've got all of these different things going on and you think, oh, has the practitioner ignored me? Have they forgotten? I told them my ear was sore and my elbow and my knee and everything, and I'm trying to get all these things treated. Yeah. And the other aspect of acupuncture in general, which is why partly why this distal method has become so popular, like your body can only do so much in one go. So it's like this example. If I had an employee, or even a helper, let's say they're not an employee, they're just a helper. They've come to help me for that day, for whatever, they're just a person to help me. And I said, oh, thank you so much for coming and helping me. This is so great. Like, can you just go over there and empty the bin? Oh, no, hang on a minute. Can you do this? Oh, no, but we need to paint that. Oh, but can you, and also, like, while you're doing that, and they've got all this stuff and they're like, what would you like me to do, Marie? I just want to help you. But you're sending them all these messages at once and they're overwhelmed with all that stuff. And they're like, hang on a minute. And the acupuncture is a bit like that. It's a bit like the helper to help you. It's trying to help. Like, it's your body's chi that's doing the job, right? The practitioner's chi isn't doing anything at all. It's your chi, like it's your energy, and we're just stimulating it to do that. So it's like a message. It's saying, do this. Okay, now do this, and then do this other thing. So it's for, if you've ever had acupuncture with lots and lots of needles in it and you felt tired afterwards, you felt like sleepy, you've got to have a sleep, or you've been really tired, it's often that whole overwhelm in the body of too many. It is that too many messages at once. Okay. Hopefully that answers the question. But I'm pretty sure I made a video. Sometimes I record these videos and I don't publish them because I haven't had time to edit them yet. I went through my hard drive the other day and I was like, oh my goodness, I've got all these videos that I've already recorded. I just haven't had time to edit them properly, to put them together. But I think that's one that I did, like saying why there's so many styles of acupuncture. It's a pretty recent-ish video. It'll be on the channel there somewhere. Yeah. So there's another question here that says, Nasisha Anazar says, if the thyroid gland has become atrophic, which means like shrunken smaller, gotten smaller, after years of thyroiditis, so thyroiditis means inflammation of the thyroid, can it be treated by TCM dietetics? So I have to be pretty careful with this because, as in answering this question, because we can't claim to treat any condition without sufficient evidence in Australia with our APRA regulation. Okay, so that's not what I'm trying to do here. So I'm just going to be quite general in general, sort of talk about how, and it's not that I'm trying to hide whether we can or cannot treat it. So what you would want to do, and what's the place of Chinese dietetics in this scenario? That's the question we really want to ask. Like, really, if you follow the proper principles of Chinese medicine, Chinese dietetics, the first thing is to set your system up so that it's not wasting energy. It's an efficient system, okay? It's not using more energy than it takes to make the energy. What that means is everything you put in takes up energy it has to transform it. It has to warm it, and it has to make nutrients out of the food. And the process of doing all of that in itself takes up energy. So if someone who's super overweight, they will build up all this massive body size that now has to be nourished. It has to be looked after. You don't just, it's like having a garden full of weeds. Like, that's still going to take up fertilizer. It's still going to take up nutrients from the soil, even though you're just growing weeds. So the first thing with Chinese dietetics is to set your body up for that optimal state. And the first question to ask when we're saying can it be useful in treating it is really like, is there any detriment? If this is wrong for me, is there going to be any detriment that could happen? And if you follow the basic principles of Chinese dietetics, no, because that's just setting you up for health. So that's essentially eating warm, cooked and moist, staying away from cold, dry and raw. Now, is that enough to treat an established condition? No. By itself, you can't just say, oh, well, Marie said eat warm, cooked and moist and that's all I need to do. But you're eating a lot of bread, or you're eating a lot of, you're like, well, that was warm. I heated up the bread, or something like that. That, maybe it's not moist. Or you eat a lot of porridge and that's all you have. Just have rice porridge. So the first thing when you've got inflammation is to take the pressure off the system as much as you can. So the first place of Chinese dietetics, if there was any place to have in it, in this scenario, would be to, as best as you can, as possible as you can, avoid eating anything that's going to just overwhelm your system that you don't need, right? Even taking supplements or taking excess medications or herbal medicines. Like I had patients come, well, not patients, sorry, they're not my patients. They're just people off the street. I had these people knock on my door a few days ago looking for a herb that's used to blacken the hair. In China, they say it blackens the hair, it treats grey hair, right? So a lot of people know Herschel wool for that reason. And they were Vietnamese and they had it scribbled down in Vietnamese. Now, I don't read Vietnamese. And they just said, oh, can you give us these? We're looking for these herbs. Can you supply us these herbs? I ended up having to send them somewhere else because I said, look, that's not what I do. And I tried to explain to the guy, because it was him and his wife there, that it can be really dangerous if you're taking things you don't actually need. And I don't know how they got this idea that this would be helpful for them. It may not necessarily be the right thing for them. And further to that, this Herschel wool by itself, it's sort of somewhere between China. It's not really Chinese dietetics. It is actually a herb. It's not really used as a food in China. And I tried to explain to this guy, like, if there's a case of someone dying in China from Herschel wool poisoning, like he'd just used so much of it, he'd shampooed with his hair and he'd been using Herschel wool soap and drinking it and getting multiple prescriptions from different practitioners and things like that. So it can be quite dangerous with some of these things, like you're adding something to it. So to answer this question, like, your practitioner is the one who's got to guide you on what to do, as in, okay, you're going to use these herbs or these foods or these things in your diet that's extra to what you would have. But you are not going to be able to, you're not going to go wrong with having warm, cooked and moist and staying away from cold, dry and raw. You're not going to go wrong following eating according to the seasons. And that in itself is going to set your body up to do the best function that it can. And that's sometimes what we have to ask ourselves. Now, if something's been going on for a long time, we have to ask ourselves, can it restore, or has it just gone too far? And I see this a lot in I'm not on the carnivore diet right now, but I have followed that for quite some time. But not doing that strictly right now. But I follow a lot of these sort of carnivore community people, carnivore diet people, doctors that talk about this stuff. And like, it is a diet where lots of people come to it for that reason, not thyroid, but for healing their body, and they've already got something wrong. And the advice that's often given, and I think this is like good advice for us as well, is that sometimes when something's already been established, sometimes there's too much structural change that's already happened for it to be repaired, but we can prevent it from getting worse. And you won't know what your body can actually do until you make those steps and you go down that road of doing it. So I can't give people individual health advice on YouTube. It's not what I do, for many reasons. One is that, you know, I'm not your doctor, and you need a doctor to give you that advice, a Chinese medicine doctor. Because it's so nuanced. And I've seen recently someone commented on one of my videos, just get to the point or some shit like that. Like, just tell me the foods. Like, and it's like, it's not that easy. It's not like I'm trying to withhold this information from you. It's like these things are really complicated. They're really nuanced in terms of what's going on for you. So, but the basic premise of eating mostly warm, cooked and moist, and there's a diet called the Qing Dan diet, that's in this book here. In this Bob Flores book, wherever it is. So it talks about that, right? And that would be the place to start, is like bland foods that are not overwhelming the spleen and stomach. So in today's modern society, you know, cooking, and that's where the Healing with Whole Foods book is a good one to do, because it teaches you how to do that cooking, because we've come so far that people think, oh, well, I poured the sauce on the pasta and I've cooked a pasta. Well, you haven't cooked a pasta, sorry, but you've partly done it. It's better than a frozen meal, and you've peeled the package away. You put it in the microwave. You've gone a little step further than that. You did boil the pasta, but you poured this jar sauce onto it. There's all these other extra ingredients, and that's what overwhelms that spleen and stomach, right? So when we follow a clear, bland diet, in our modern context, I'm not going to say that in these older books necessarily. I mean, this is not really an old book, but the premise of that diet was even come from a time when they didn't have packaged foods. They didn't have fridges and freezers, and storage of things was different. It wasn't like a load of preservatives and a load of sugar in the diet or anything like that. So going on to very simple, easy to digest foods, you know, is a way to somewhat give that spleen and stomach like a bit of room. And then you can kind of see what happens, right, with this thing. So if your thyroid is still functioning, you know, is it possible that it can come back to proper, like, normal function? And then you have to balance. That's the question you're going to ask yourself, right? I'm not saying whether it can or can't. And then the next question you have to ask yourself is, if I go off medication, or if I do this in preference to taking medication, like, what's the detriment of me not taking that medicine? What's the detriment if I don't treat this, or I don't have surgery to remove it, or if this doesn't get better, and it gets worse and worse, what else could happen in my body, right? Qing as in Qing. Qing mean clear, right? Clear, Dan. Clear. So there's a lot of stuff online, but surely there's a lot of blogs and people talking about what's the Qing Dan diet in Chinese medicine, because that's this idea of this clear diet, right? Like, I would stay away from an excessive amount of carbs. Now, the Qing Dan diet's kind of based on congee. Now, just bearing in mind it's a small amount of congee, not like a massive bowl of rice. Like, one of the things people don't realize necessarily about Chinese cuisine, Chinese dietetics isn't just eating what's in China. That's not what it's about. But that Oriental type of foods, is a main part of what it's based on. But the principles can apply to modern foods as well. Originally, when they feed you, I don't do this at restaurants now, but they sometimes do this at restaurants. And I've been at a restaurant in China where they did this, and my friend was like, "Oh, why aren't they bringing out the rice? I'm so hungry, like, for my rice." He loves eating the rice with the meat, which is what we all do. We love to put the rice with the meat. They would normally give you the meat first, and then the vegetables, and then the rice, in that order. Like, bring the food out in that order. Now, why is that? One is because the meat's expensive. The meat was the most expensive thing. And if you could afford the meat, everyone sort of takes their little share of the meat first, and then you have the vegetables, and then if you're still hungry, you fill up on the rice type of thing. But otherwise you can easily fill up on the rice, and you didn't eat the vegetables, and you didn't eat the meat, that sort of thing. So that tells you already like this hierarchy of like how important things are, that you need that protein. So whether it be chicken or fish or beef or whatever the meat sort of source was, and that's kind of the idea. So you don't want to have a lot of heavy, starchy sort of foods, noodles and breads, or heavier foods. It's not light. Ching means light, means clear. Like it's heavy, it's weighing you down. Now, is there a place for those heavier foods? Yeah, there's a place for them. They do serve a purpose. But if you eat those things every day, then you're going to feel more heavier, and that then generates dampness, and then you feel sluggish and so forth. So yeah, hopefully that's answered that question. I wasn't planning to do many questions today, so I didn't bring any water here. But we'll probably just end the stream there, unless someone's got another burning sort of question that they really want to ask. So the course is starting on next week. I'll just see if I can find I'll find the link to this. Really want to say thanks to people for supporting the channel with getting to the 10,000 subscribers. That's what this was for. I'll answer that question that's just come in now. So I've put the link in for the new course that's starting. What's different about the course to what I do on YouTube is it's extremely structured. There's learning outcomes. It's step by step. It's the same level of learning after the week 2 that I would do when I teach this stuff at a university level, which I have done many times. As in, this is what practitioners would learn about stuff. And these are all practitioner, level books. I've got heaps of these Chinese diet books. And this is another example of a Chinese diet book. That's a Bob Floor's one that's written on a specific thing. So this is called, I'm not sure where the thing is, called The Book of Juk. Now, this is a book of just medicinal congee recipes. So it's got herbs, like these things behind me, mixed into foods. So that sort of gives you an example of what's that for? Internal medicine, diabetes, thyroid. Oh, that's what we were just talking about, thyroid hypertrophy, but that's like a shrinking of the thyroid. That's what you just said, thyroid thyroid. So I'm not saying that this treats it, but that's what this book is saying. So it's mung bean and kelp congee. So it's this one here. I'll just put it there in the picture. You can kind of have a look there. I can't see where my camera starts and ends. There you go. That one there. You can take a screenshot of that. So mung beans, and this is a great example of stuff that's like beans are purgatives, like they drain damp, and kelp is a seaweed. Yep. I'm going to answer that question about the swelling and pain in a sec. Is it in a particular area? Is it in the joint, like big joints or little joints, or the whole body? And I'm just going to grab a water. Just give me one sec. I've got this awesome SodaStream machine that I got for my birthday, and I didn't even realize that it doesn't need power. And I spent ages waiting to find a place for it because I didn't have a little power point where it could fit. And then when I unboxed it, I realized it doesn't need power. You just press this button and it just makes carbonated water. I never used to like carbonated water, but sometimes you just feel like something where you just don't want any sugar. And I don't drink soda. I don't ever drink that. Maybe not ever, but I have in my life, but I don't drink it now. But sometimes you just feel like something not flat water, just fizzy water. So Dolphin says what to take for swelling and pain in arthritis. Turmeric is definitely a part of Chinese medicine. It's also like become very popular in, colloquial, all kinds of natural medicines. And like it's a blood moving herb. There are other blood moving formulas that are used. I'm just thinking about if there's any foods that can be used. So usually with arthritis, there's different patterns of disharmony that it can be. So if you've got lots of swelling, which is saying you've got swelling, reading the first part of your question, beans actually dispel swelling. So mung beans, zuki beans, red bean, which is don't have too much red bean with sweets in it, like because Chinese love to make red bean paste, red bean buns and all this stuff with sugar. So you don't want the sugar. But beans have a damp reducing effect. Now, if you've got like what we would say damp heat in it's hard for me to answer these questions without giving a proper explanation of the things. One is because I can't just say, oh, it's going to be this, and because it might not be. There's different patterns of disharmony, different reasons why you can have swelling and pain in arthritis. The longer you've had something going on for, the more chance it is that there's going to be deficiency there. And when you're deficient, as in qi deficiency, yang deficiency, and you can still have swelling with yang deficiency. Okay, so it's not just saying, well, you've got swelling, so you must have dampness there. That's wrong. It's not true. You might have swelling there because the yang is so deficient it can't transform the fluids. So it can't put the warmth into the fluids, and the fluids have just sit there and get stuck. So beans would actually be worse for a person like that. Okay, so if it's something that has more recently happened, so like this is not exactly answering your question. Sorry. Let's say you get stung by a bee or something and it swells right up, and it's like that is a proper toxic heat scenario where the flushing that thing with the mung beans or the red beans or whatever, like any kinds of beans, would be good. But if you have beans all the time and you're yang deficient or you're qi deficient or any kind of deficiency, you're not. It's not really treating the cause of the problem. And in addition to that, the beans might be making you worse because they're kind of pushing a lot of the stuff out of your body. So that's just one aspect. If you're blood deficient, that can be part of pain. Blood deficiency then leading to blood stagnation, and often that kind of thing has sharp, fixed pain that just sort of doesn't move around. It just sort of stays in that same place all the time. And that's usually when something's been going on a long time. Then blood moving things can be useful. And these also, what's helpful in that way is pungent foods, cinnamon, garlic, turmeric, oregano, or oregano, however you want to say it, the spring onions or scallion stalks, ginger, I don't know if I mentioned that, but all those sorts of that family of foods, those pungent foods, they all move stuck qi. So they've got to move the qi to move the stuck blood. Treating these things with Chinese herbs is actually quite a complex thing because a formula will be doing a few things. Like there'll be herbs in there like fu ling in the whole formula that's helping to move fluids, helping to move that damp. But then you might have something that's quite warm, like a yang tonic, to help tonify the yang in order to bring the fire back of the digestion to help do that transformation. Or at the same time, you've got sort of a diuretic herb in there doing that as well. It can be quite, and then you'd have something pungent, cinnamon, ginger, stuff like that can be part of formulas to treat these things. So Chinese herbal medicine can address this stuff, but foods wise, yeah, if it's really, really acute and there's a lot of swelling and the swelling is the main thing, it's so painful, you could try that beans kind of flushing, and then but don't live on the beans, especially if you know you're deficient. If you've been to a practitioner and your pulse is really faint and they can hardly find your pulse, you don't have, you do have deficiency probably. You don't have the need for, you shouldn't be having a lot of beans usually in that way. So I hope that's answered it. Okay, we've got another question. Nasisha says, what should be done for anti-nutrients in beans or lentils? I've started soaking them for 7 to 8 hours. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this guy talks about soaking them in vinegar. Let me just see if I can find that thing. Might be soaking them in vinegar. I have just have to look up lentils in here. Lentils aren't really a great food to be eating regularly anyway. Like they fall into the same category as the beans. They have lectins in them. They're very sort of irritate the digestive tract, so they're not great. 513 to 514. Hang on. Yeah, this guy must love lentils. There's like pages and pages on lentils. I think he does, because what else can you eat when you're a vegetarian? I used to be a vegetarian. I used to make this awesome like lentils shepherd's pie. Yeah, it was really yum. And I recently not recently, but like what must have been a year and a half ago, I was staying with my friends who are practitioners as well, and they were vegetarian. They're not vegetarian now, but they were going through this vegetarian time. And they made me a spaghetti bolognese, but a vegetarian one, and the sauce was made out of red lentils. And it was one of those foods where as soon as I got home, I had to make it again myself, even though I don't eat that stuff. I had to go down the shops and buy those red lentils because I was like, oh, that was so delicious. And they made it with, like, they made the sauce, like the bolognese sauce, out of these red lentils with the passata. And yeah, it just... 513, where is it here? It's it just made me, so what's good about the Pitchford book, because people were asking about that at the start, like for instance he's got here all the lentils, all the legumes, everything, azuki beans, black beans, lentils, simmer time, pressure cooker time, because you have to soak these things usually because they're coming as being hard, like they're coming, not unless you're buying them in a can or something, they're usually soaked. So he says soak your legumes for 12 hours or overnight in 4 parts water to 1 part legume. For best results, change the water once or twice. Lentils and whole dry peas require shorter soaking. There was something here. Oh, there, yeah, okay. Soaking also promotes faster cooking and improved digestibility because the gas-causing enzymes and trisaccharides in the legumes are released into the soak water. Be sure to discard the soak water. So you've got to tip the water out, right? After bringing the legumes to the boil, scoop off and discard the foam. Continue to boil for 20 minutes without the lid at the beginning of the cooking to let the steam rise. That breaks up and disperses indigestible enzymes. So I think that's what you're asking about there. He says, if problems with gas persist, like you're getting farty, gassy and bloated and farty from it, this step and the number 8 below are very useful. I'll tell you what that is in a minute. Pour a little apple cider, brown rice or white wine vinegar into the water in the last stages of cooking the legumes. Okay, so that I did remember the vinegar from that reason. It's just that I haven't cooked these things for so long that I forgot about that. So the idea is you soak them in, 4 parts water to 1 part lentil. Discard that liquid when you're boiling them. It's the same as if you're boiling some herbs. You get this scum, this foam, or if you've ever made bone broth, you'll get that as well. And you just scoop that off. And then he's saying let there be 20 minutes of boiling it with the lid off. So those vapors are evaporating out, and you're not sort of containing the vapors and letting them go back into the whole mix. And then he's saying at the very end of the mix of the cooking, you could add a little bit of that type of either brown rice vinegar, apple cider vinegar, or the white wine vinegar. At the end. And then he's got another suggestion here. You could sprout the legumes to break their protein into amino acids, the starches and trisaccharides into simple sugars, and to create valuable enzymes and vitamins. Sprouting legumes until they have rootlets, like little roots coming out of them, maximizes their digestibility. Lentils, mung beans, and azuki beans sprout the most easily. However, sprouts are somewhat cooling and most useful in the spring and summer. They do not strengthen or warm the yang energy of the body, they do not strengthen the yang energy of the body sufficiently for those who are very weak and cold. Now, this is where I kind of differ on the idea. Like, if you've sprouted something, you've germinated it, and it makes sense that contains more yang because it's the start of the energy process, right? There's growth in that thing that you've taken. Like, it's more fresh than the dried legume itself. So those are the steps. Like, yeah. So Nasisha says you haven't tried the 20 minutes with the lid off, so you could try that. And yeah, so I don't think you need to soak it for as long, but like he was saying, like in this thing with the soaking, you might need to change the water. So that's something obviously you're not going to get up in the middle of the night and change the water, but if you're doing it in the day and you could change the water over. Yeah, hopefully that'll help, and you'll feel better. Now I'm feeling hungry for that lentil spaghetti bolognese. Now I'm thinking about it. I don't know. It was just something about it. It was so, like, when you eat something you've never had before and you're like, oh, this is yum and it's so delicious. And it was kind of like, yeah, I want to eat that again. And like, I just wasn't expecting it. Especially when like you're expecting it not to be good. And no, it's not that I wasn't expecting them to cook good food, because they were good cooks. But yeah, something over exceeds your expectations. You're like, oh, that was good. Can I recreate that again? Can I make it a second time? Because I watched them make it at the house, and I was like, noting it down in my head, like, okay. And the only way I can really remember recipes is if I make it over and over myself. And if I've made it 3 times sort of in a row, I won't need the recipe anymore. I hate using recipe books. Like, I'll watch a video and I'll cook along with the person doing it, or whatever it is. But then I'll make it over and over and over, and then I'll realize, okay, now I know how to do it. And I really do a lot of like experimental cooking myself, where I just go, oh, we'll try a bit of this or try a bit of that. And it doesn't always work out. But yeah, you don't know until you try, do you? Just kind of give it a bit of go. All right. Well, that's been a good way to spend Sunday afternoon. So we've got some people who've won the prizes. If you've won a prize, congratulations, and thanks everyone for supporting the channel. Really appreciate it. And yeah, have a great rest of the day. Good Sunday. Happy Father's Day. In Australia, it was Father's Day. I think it's not Father's Day in the rest of the world. Australia just has its own Father's Day. But yeah, anyway, if it's your Father's Day, happy Father's Day. Say hi to your dad for me. And yeah. All right. If people have a question about the course, they can send me an email about it. You can book a free call. I think on the website somewhere there's a thing to do that, or you can just send me an email. And yeah, if you're struggling with the payment or something and you want to split it into a couple of payments, there's that is a possibility to do that. But yeah, it's going to start next week, and it's super exciting, and it'll really deep dive into all this stuff really thoroughly. Cool. All right, I'll leave it at that, and thanks everyone.